Hey there, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to Patriots of the American Republic. We've got some really fascinating and exciting news happening. If you've been watching, just a few weeks ago, we discussed an ongoing tension between Venezuela's dictator Nicholas Maduro and President Trump. In that video, we wanted to give a balanced view of the difficult decision presidents have to take when getting involved in foreign affairs. I spoke about how, we can't afford to get involved in every foreign situation, but we also can't afford not to get involved in some situations, in some matters, right? I gave examples of when getting involved was the right decision, and I also gave example of when getting involved is the wrong decision. Now, given the timing of that video and the inevitable outcome, I am pleased to announce today that President Trump has confirmed Nicholas Maduro has been captured by U.S. forces. Now, in my adulthood, I know that in order for someone to have peace, you've got to be willing to defend yourself. And within that defense, you can't mess around. Meaning, you're going to have to be prepared to physically, defend yourself, right? One thought I've always had is that when Americans are hurt, it's the duty of the U.S. president to retaliate in order to send a message, no matter where my people are around the world, I will defend them, and in some cases, avenge them, right? I think I've had that outlook since I was a teenager. But anyhow, just last month, it was reported that 2 U.S. troops and a civilian interpreter were killed in an ambushed ISIS attack over in Syria. Let's take a listen.
Overseas now, and President Trump is threatening retaliation after the deaths of 3 Americans, 2 soldiers, and 1 U.S. interpreter in an ISIS attack in Syria. U.S. military planes were seen flying over the area after the deadly attacks. 3 service members were injured. ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has more.
Tonight, military warplanes patrolling the skies above Syria after 3 Americans were killed. The Pentagon says 2 U.S. soldiers and 1 U.S. civilian interpreter were ambushed on Saturday by a lone ISIS gunman while supporting counterterrorism operations against the Islamic State. 3 American service members also wounded in the attack.
Now, President Trump was asked about actions he will take, and like a good president, he said the following.
President Trump vows retaliation after 2 American troops and a civilian interpreter were killed in an ambush in Syria.
Do you still have confidence in the Syrian president?
I do. I mean, this had nothing to do with him. This is a part of Syria that they really don't have much control over. And it was a surprise. He feels very badly about it. He's working on it. He's a strong man. And no, this had nothing to do with the Syrian government. This had to do with ISIS.
What will the U.S. response be?
As a response, they'll be hit hard.
Now, as he promised, President Trump delivered.
But over the weekend, President Trump launching a massive airstrike on more than 70 terror targets in Syria. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth called it a declaration of vengeance meant to eliminate ISIS.
Talk about FAFO. Now, a few months ago, we talked about the Christian genocide happening worldwide, but more specifically when it comes to Nigeria. President Trump issued a warning, or a threat, depending on how you look at it, of U.S. involvement and the consequences if the Christian Nigerians wouldn't be protected by their government. Many on the left denied the claims, as usual, running similar types of propaganda the way they did for Hamas, just over the last, 2 decades when it comes to Israel, right? But just like what took place in Syria, Trump said that he would do, and once again, promises made, promises kept. Roughly about a week ago, President Trump took action against the ISIS terrorists in Nigeria. Let's take a look.
The Pentagon also posting this video on social media showing the Christmas night missile launches. President Trump's major escalation coming after he says, quote, "I've previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight, there was." U.S. Africa Command adding the strikes killed, quote, "multiple ISIS terrorists." Nigeria saying the strikes were carried out in coordination with their authorities. Violence in Nigeria has been a focus for President Trump, who has previously warned of possible military action.
I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians.
One thing you can say about President Trump is that he is a man of his word, and he is not afraid to take action where it's needed. As I stated in the last video, Trump's instincts on how to deal with our, adversaries has been impeccable. Now, over the last several months, Trump has given dictator Nicholas Maduro ample chance to remove himself, or he would be removed. Naturally, like any dictator, Maduro thought he was out of U.S. reach, as he would, I guess, I don't know, maybe he looked at his allies. He's like, oh, I've got all these allies around me, so I'm not going to be touched by Trump, because he knows that if he gets with me, he's going to have to mess with all these people, right? The allies of evil is what I like to call them, right? The rhetoric from Maduro was bold, as, there were several videos where he was calling the U.S. imperialistic and the nation of white supremacy. Again, all these stupid leftist talking points. But that defiant rhetoric began to change over the last month or so, as he would begin to attempt to manipulate the people with chants of "say no to war." In several videos, he was dancing around like a buffoon while he was doing those chants to try and, again, just manipulate, no war, just peace type of thing, right? I think Maduro saw the writing on the walls as, we were closing in on him, as it was reported that he tried to negotiate with Trump. And according to that phone call, he offered Trump just about everything in order for Trump to allow him to stay in power. Let's take a look.
It has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want around with the United States.
Now, that video was from about a month or two ago, but just yesterday, on the 2nd of January, Maduro was trying to make another attempt at negotiating with Trump. Let's take a look.
Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro says he is open to talks with President Trump on a number of pressing issues, including drug trafficking, oil, and migration. In a pre-taped interview that aired on Thursday, Maduro said he is prepared to open a dialogue with the U.S., quote, whenever they want to, whenever they want.
Look, Maduro had his chance to step down and perhaps exile himself to like Turkey or Russia. I'm sure they would have taken him in, but he chose to defy America and President Trump. And today, on January 3rd of 2026, I'm pleased to announce that Nicolas Maduro has been captured along with his wife in a joint U.S. effort and has been brought to the U.S. to stand trial for his crimes towards our country at the order of our great leader, President Trump. Let's take a listen.
Eric, as you said, the president posting on Truth Social. We now have that for our viewers to look at on the screen. There it is. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today, 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump, unprecedented action in Venezuela overnight. Let's talk.
The news is ringing across the globe as the U.S. has taken its first major step at bringing freedom to the people of Venezuela while simultaneously securing, defending America, right? Now, my wife, you guys know that she's from Venezuela, right? She still has friends and family over there who were within visual distance of areas that were being bombarded. And they advised her of what was happening. And almost immediately she began to, weep tears of joy as her native country was now being liberated by her American country, the country that she resides in. So she was filled with American pride as she felt like that we were the direct cause of liberating her home country, right? So in essence, in her mind, she's playing out, listen, America has always been known for freedom and values and so on and so forth. And here it is playing out where were directly involved in liberating my home country. I mean, I can only imagine the emotions going through her, pride for being Venezuelan and pride for being American. And I have a little bit of pride as well, or I shouldn't say a little bit, but I do have that pride that as an American, we were part of that, or we've taken the first step of that, of bringing that freedom to that area and those group of people. And it's a call that we've historically been known for, as you can see it across multiple different movies. But historically speaking, that's our thing, right? When people feel oppressed, they often fly the American flag as a symbol of freedom, and that's what we're all about, right? Now, as many Venezuelans did, they recorded the events and took to social media as witnesses of the downfall of the dictatorship. Let's take a look at a sample of some of these social media videos that have been posted by the people that are actually on the ground over there, right? These are actual Venezuelans that are having an eyewitness, a testimony, right?
No, marico, esto no puede ser en serio.
Marico, vamos a moverla.
Graba ahí, graba ahí.
Espera.
Graba, marico. No, me está jodiendo. Marico, no puedo creer esta mierda. Marico, me está jodiendo.
Marico, tengo corazón mío. Ya, marico.
Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando. Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esa mierda, ¿oyó?
Mira, huevo durísimo, chamo. Ya vas a ver un incendio, pero una vaina. Hostia, ahí está pasando. Mierda, marico.
No, marico, esto no puede ser en serio.
Marico, vamos a moverla.
Graba ahí, graba ahí.
Espera.
Graba, marico. No, me está jodiendo. Marico, no puedo creer esta mierda. Marico, me está jodiendo.
Marico, tengo corazón mío.
Ya, marico.
Ya.
Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando. Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esa mierda, ¿oyó?
Mira, huevo durísimo, chamo. Ya vas a ver un incendio, pero una vaina. Hostia, ahí está pasando. Mierda, marico.
So as you can see there, bombs went down, very specific targeted locations. We could see some of the helicopters flying at night, and they successfully captured their target. So based on the events, it's impressive to see a few things, right? Obviously the bravery, although at this point it's known, American soldiers are extremely brave, but it needs to be mentioned, right? These troops carried out a precision mission with utmost success. Secondly, is the intelligence to know exactly where Maduro was is very impressive. This wasn't like a years-long hunting mission, but very literally, we go in, we get what we need to get, and we get out type of a mission. Again, it was precise. Now, we either caught them completely by surprise, or our military superiority is just that much greater because there were no reports of any return fire from the Venezuelan military. And I do think that it's a combination of our intelligence and our military superiority. Remember, it was just a few weeks ago the U.S. was able to covertly pull Maria Corina Machado out of Venezuela in order for her to not only receive her Nobel Peace Prize, but continue to fight for the freedom of her people. So I have no doubt regarding our military superiority being the driver of this successful mission. Now, as mentioned in the last video and highlighted since starting this channel, TDS manages to impact society as we have the left constantly going against everything and anything Trump does, just to remain defiant, and in this case, despite the obvious, which is if you're going against Trump, you're supporting an alleged narco dictator, right? The left has a number of tactical dog whistle type words at their disposal. Words like, is this legal? And where's the due process? And so on and so forth. These are just some of the stupid things that are coming out of the left, as you're going to hear in this video now.
With me now is retired Major General Scott Clancy, former Director of Operations for NORAD. Major General, welcome. Your initial reaction to this development. Does the U.S. have the legal authority to do this?
So, in accordance with the international law, no, they do not. They are using the self-defense rationale within non-international armed conflict portion of the laws of armed conflict to justify taking out the head of a supposed cartel. That's a real problem because you have to prove that you're under an armed attack. And these terrorist organizations, although we call them terrorist organizations, yes, they're eliciting terror on the streets because of the trafficking of drugs, but that's not an armed attack. And that's why the legal basis of this is a little bit flimsy. That being said, there's a bad guy. He is significantly killing people within his own country, maintaining power, using the illicit elements of military and police power to do so. People disappear in the streets. There's arrests without warrant. All of these things that go to, it's an illicit regime. None of that, however, justifies legally taking out the head of state of another nation.
Now, expectedly, you have leftist world leaders who have come out to their social media platforms to oppose this move by President Trump. Let's take a listen here.
International community is also reacting to these latest developments in Venezuela following the capture of Nicholas Maduro and U.S. strikes in that country overnight. News Nation's Marcus Espinoza is with us. Marcus, good morning. A lot of world leaders waking up to the news. How are they reacting?
Henna, there's two types of reactions going on right now, direct and then a wait and see approach. That's really what we're seeing right now. Several countries and regional leaders, they've already released strong statements. Colombian President Gustavo Petro says he rejects the aggression against the sovereignty of Venezuela and of Latin America. Petro is calling for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council and has already begun deploying public forces to the border as they prepare for a potential massive influx of refugees, something to keep an eye on. The Mexican government, meanwhile, also strongly condemning these strikes, calling them a violation of the UN Charter, says it rejects the military actions carried out by the United States against targets on Venezuelan soil. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is taking a more cautious approach, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying he wants to establish the facts of the situation, also to speak directly with President Trump, stressing that the UK was not involved. Iran, a longtime ally of Venezuela, has also joined the condemnation, calling these strikes an illegal invasion. The Iranian Foreign Ministry is reminding the UN Security Council of its responsibility to immediately halt that aggression. Hannah, all eyes now turn to Mar-a-Lago. President Trump set to take the stage at 11 a.m. Eastern.
If you're a leftist, imagine aligning yourself with the Iranian leaders, right? They're no advocates for peace and freedom and so on and so forth, right? And so if you are against this action and you're siding or agreeing with those types of leaders, it kind of says a lot about your thought process, right? Now, no surprise that another possible narco leader like Petro from Colombia would object to this action. And, I'm sure this move impacts him as he's losing a socialist drug dealing ally, right? President Trump just addressed the American people regarding last night's mission and the plan forward regarding the transition of power. Now, within that speech, he stated that we would be running Venezuela, assuring safety in the region and assuring another snake doesn't take power while we're able to perform a judicial transition. Let's take a listen.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
Now, in addition to the stupidity that we were hearing from the left regarding the legality and all this other stuff, due process, whatever the case may be, international, whatever mumbo jumbo they want to come up with, I suspect and anticipate the left's attempt to affirm their deceptive cries of an invasion and American imperialism, right? Based on what Trump just finished saying about securing the area, making sure that there's a judicial transition, right? Many are going to see that, oh, you see, they're invading. That word invasion it drives the left's narrative. It's not an invasion; it's liberating, right? It's multi-layered, right? Because it's liberating the people of Venezuela, but it's also protecting American interests, right? So strategically, President Trump's course of action is sound, but naturally, the anti-Trump propaganda is going to be front and center. And I'm sure that all throughout this weekend, we're going to hear these leftists come out against President Trump and his actions. Now, aside from the left crying about everything that President Trump does, one group of people who are not crying, rather, they've taken to the streets across the globe to come out and celebrate the liberation of Venezuela. Let's take a look.
Venezuela. Listo. Venezuela. Al fin, señor, gracias. Gracias, amigo.
Gabriela Arzola. She is joining us live from Doral. She is outside in Arepaso, which we know is the mecca of the Venezuelan community there. And Gabby,
it seems pretty busy behind you, Gabby. It's 6 a.m. and people have been out there. Can you tell us about what you're seeing and how long you've been seeing people out there reacting to this news?
Guys, history is being made in real time. There are hundreds of people here in El Arepaso, which, like you said, has been the mecca for Venezuelans speaking out against injustices in their country for decades.
Now, I can tell you the joy within my own household as, our family has been amazed and has been celebrating, and they're just so emotional right now. Now, many of you guys know, like I mentioned before, that my wife was born in Venezuela. She legally migrated here before Venezuela's collapse. But since hearing the news, she has been crying tears of joy. She first got the news around 2 o'clock this morning. She works as a nurse on the night shift, and she was messaged, I think originally by friends and family who are directly still over there. And like I said before, they do have, they were able to hear the bombs. In some cases, they were able to see, because they were, within the vision of where those bombs, hit. And so, her family, excuse me, her immediate family has been nothing but joyful, since hearing the news. My family, although, we're Cuban in background, obviously understanding the turmoil that Venezuela is going through, we stand in solidarity. And now we're unanimously rejoicing in Venezuela's liberation. And, what does this do? I don't know if Cuba would ever be in that same situation. Cuba really doesn't have a lot to offer, financially speaking, right? It's not like Venezuela, which, does have oil and minerals and stuff like that. Cuba really doesn't have. So I don't know if there's a possibility, but it is a good sign that maybe something could come of this if Venezuela has been liberated without boots on the ground, in essence, without an invasion, right? Without human lives, American lives, at the cost of American lives, et cetera, right? I don't know. It's wishful thinking. It is what it is, right? But now, just a few days ago, okay, Iran has seen protests from its people who desire relief from, their government's tyranny, right? I believe the collapse of their monetary system is adding, right, to these protests. But they've been going on for a couple of days now, and there's a growing concern that Iran may take a playbook out of, any dictator, but like Maduro, who turned his government against the people in a very deadly manner. Remember, he used tanks and he used his military to use tanks to run over people, and then the military to actually shoot at students that were protesting, right? So the fear is that Iran is going to do something similar and become violent and deadly violent towards their people simply for protesting, right? President Trump has issued a warning to Iran not to take violent military action against their own people. Let's take a listen here.
Now to President Trump's new warning to the leaders of Iran. It was posted on social media at about 3 o'clock this morning. The president weighing in on the protests sweeping across Iran with a threat. We have two reports tonight, beginning with Natalie Brand.
In a new warning, President Trump said on social media, if Iran kills peaceful protesters, the United States will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
It's the president's second threat against the country in recent days. On Monday, saying there are unconfirmed reports Iran is rebuilding its nuclear program following U.S. strikes on key sites last June.
If it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences. Consequences will be very powerful. Maybe more powerful than the last time.
Now, given President Trump's track record, I don't think Iran wants to fool around and find out in a 2.0 manner. In today's press conference, Secretary of State Marco Rubio wonderfully summarized Trump's resolve and word. Let's take a listen.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicholas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy. But instead, he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that, I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
You know, Secretary Rubio nails it by characterizing President Trump as a president of action. He has proven time and time again, if you mess with America or the American people, be prepared to suffer, I don't know, his vengeance, his wrath, justice. I mean, whatever word you want to use to describe it. But at the end of the day, our president absolutely needs to fight for our protection, not only domestically, but also internationally. Our enemies have to understand that if you mess with America and Americans, like if you try and kidnap us or whatever the case may be prepared that this president will follow through with everything that he says. You're going to have to suffer whatever consequence your actions caused. But anyhow, guys, that's it for today's video. May God bless America. May God bless the people of Venezuela. May the people of Venezuela look and lean to God as they prepare this new chapter of their history. And lastly, I'm going to rejoice a little bit, because may all the leftist Hispanics eat their words. All these leftist Hispanics that have been criticizing and have been anti-Trump, for years now, may they be forced to eat their own words and recognize that President Trump just brought liberty and freedom to the people of Venezuela, as he also protects America's interest overseas. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you guys in the next one. God bless you guys. God bless America. Bye-bye.